Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Nanowar of Steel, Italian folk metal, on July 2nd on Napalm Records. This album has 13 tracks, 52 minutes in length, and this is the band's 6th full-length studio album. They are an Italian metal parody band. Now, this album has a structure that I didn't feel like it had a direct impact in the overall playability. It does have some impact, but it doesn't really make this album better or worse. Having said that, I like the fact that it starts with an intro. I like the fact that they put a ballad, Rosario, right in the middle of the record, and then they put the two covers that they did, one in German and one in Spanish, right at the end. These 4 songs are exactly where they need to be. I don't think they could be anywhere else within the track listing of the record. Everything else, you could change. The album would still be the same, the fluidity would be the same, the playability would be the same, the album would have the same life that it currently has. It doesn't really need certain songs to go together outside of these 4 tracks that are exactly where they need to be, because they become the cornerstones of the overall construction of the album. Once you get into the soundscape, this is definitely a folk metal album, an Italian folk metal album. They brought influences from their own culture, from their own music into this record, and they use those influences differently on each and every single song. So as you progress through this record, you're going to get different glimpses of what Italian music, Italian culture is all about. It's going to be represented on the musical side, but also on the lyrical side. So it's a very diverse album. You're going to get a different look, a different feel with every single song. So there's no sense of pattern, there's no sense of continuity from track to track. This is an album that really lives off of the quality of the individual songs, not necessarily how they cooperate with one another or how they transport you from song to song. It's all about where you currently are, enjoy the track that you're on, and expect something different around the corner. That's the overall soundscape, that's the overall design of this record. Now, the whole album is in Italian with the exception of the 2 last songs, but I don't think you could really go and create an album called Italian folk metal, bring their cultural influences musically and lyrically into the record, and then sing in English. It just makes absolute zero sense. So I totally understand why they went with full-on Italian record from top to bottom. Well, nearly top to bottom, because the last 2 songs, one is German, one is Spanish. But I understand the idea. You want to really emphasize the culture. You really want to bring to the forefront the concept of Italian folk metal. So that is, in my opinion, what drove that decision. Having said that, I think it impacts the listener, specifically the listener who's not native Italian, who doesn't speak the language, who doesn't understand it, who's not really clear in terms of what is happening, or perhaps doesn't understand the influence that drove the construction of these songs. Me personally, I understand a little bit of Italian, not enough to really get the full concept of the album, or not enough to get really what each song is trying to give me. I'm perhaps getting 10% of what this album is all about. But if you're Italian, if you speak the language, if you understand it, if you understand the culture that drove the creation of these songs, you're getting the full spectrum of what this album has to offer. You're really squeezing that orange and getting all the juice. So I think this is an album that's going to impact the listener differently depending on your background, depending on your knowledge of the culture and what you bring into the listening experience. Perhaps the only negative of the record being that, because it really segregates the audience, it really separates the audience and creates 2 different experiences depending on what you have and your knowledge coming into the album itself. On top of that, you have the vocals. I really like the overall vocal performance. I like the fact that they had a bunch of guest vocalists and guest artists on this album, but perhaps 2 that really brought some attention to the forefront to the songs that they were in, at least from my perspective, was Francesco Paoli, A Flesh God Apocalypse, and Jade, A Frozen Crown. The 2 songs that they were in really become different, or really become what they do with their own bands, but now in a Nanowar of Steel style approach. So I really like the fact that they had some guest appearances, and those guest appearances were Italian artists. So that really plays once again into the overall concept, into what they're creating, into the Italian folk metal album that they put together. Overall, this is a very interesting album. I really enjoy the record. I felt like this album has enough on its own, regardless of how much you're going to get out of it in terms of understanding all the little nuggets that they hide throughout this record. I still think there's enough there for you to really enjoy it, for you to really have a fun time listening to it, because the songs are fun. The songs are easy to enjoy, easy to process. They're not overcomplicated. This is a Nanowar of Steel album, so it's really all about having a good time listening to it. And it's an album that you can easily navigate through. You don't really have to do a lot of work. You just have to press play and just go where the songs take you. But once again, going back to that negative, I really feel like if you're Italian, you're going to get a lot more out of this record. So this is going to be an album that it's not going to give all of their audience the same results, because there's some part of their audience, if you will, are just not going to be able to get all the references that they put forward, not just in the lyrical content, but in the song structures and in the musical influences that drove the creation of these tracks. Now, as far as songs are concerned, I have 3 tracks that offer 3 different perspectives, but then again, I could pick any song on this album. They're all going to offer different perspectives, but I really gravitated towards these 3 tracks because of different reasons. The first one, L'Assedio de Porto Cervo. This one features Francesco Paoli, and it's the second song on the album. First track if you don't consider the opening salvo, which is an intro track. This song really becomes the heaviest track on the album. This is a Flesh God Apocalypse song, specifically in the verses, and then becoming a Nanowar of Steel song in the chorus, a little bit more melodic, a little bit more over the top, but super heavy, super aggressive, harsh vocals from Francesco in the verses really drives that point home, really becoming a song that gives you that Flesh God Apocalypse sense, but still has the fun, lighthearted nature of Nanowar of Steel, and because of that, really becomes a memorable track all around. Next, Rosario, the ballad in the middle of the record featuring Jade from Frozen Crown. I love this song. I love the beauty, the simplicity that it has. It's just outstanding vocals all around. I really love how it comes across. It has that prototypical Italian pop ballad sound to it, and they did it in a marvelous way. They really constructed this song, taking a lot of influences perhaps from Laura Pausini. It kind of gave me that sense a little bit in terms of how the song is constructed and how the song is delivered, but the vocals are phenomenal, and for a song like this you really have to have great vocalists in order to really bring the song home, in order to give it the essence that it needs. And then at the end of the track they give me a little bit of Seal, Kiss from the Rose, which is a play on words in terms of what the song is about, but I was not expecting that at all. So when that hits you at the end of the track, it has to bring a smile to your face. It's impossible for you to listen to this song, get to that end, get that Seal, Kiss from the Rose reference, and not smile and not laugh at what these guys just put together. Then last but not least, Il Signore, degli, Anelli, dello, Stadio. This song, and sorry for butchering the Italian language, but this song is perhaps my favorite song on the record. This is all about footy. It's all about football, soccer if you live in North America. They took different chants, they took different songs that are sung in the stadiums, and they brought them all together, and they created this gumbo, this chili of different flavors, of different pieces of different songs that are used by supporters of soccer teams to sing for their squads when they're playing on the field. This is the perfect track to blast out super loud with the windows down as you're driving through Little Italy on a hot summer day. It will bring smiles to everyone's faces. I just love this track. I love how it sounds. I love how it feels. It makes me want to be in a soccer stadium singing along, supporting my favorite squad. So I love the construction. I love the idea, but perhaps even better, the execution. This is it. Nanowar of Steel, Italian folk metal, out July 2nd on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the singles, on the band. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.